least that's a very, I thought, a very powerful way of putting it. And those discussions were amazing. And it isn't the academic stuff or the usual mode, that's for sure. It's how do we get more of that? I mean, there's some native folks who refer to us as neo-primitivists, which is, you know, that, I mean, there's a lot of different words or names, and but if we can enlarge that and to direct listening, but you know, and it's also true, it's not any good, it's not respectful to lump any indigenous group together. In other words, there are certainly divisions among, you know, there can be native groups. Some spokesperson is, you know, all in favor of development, for example. I mean, that's, of course, there's different takes, the way they see it, and struggles within those communities, obviously too. You can't just say, well, that's the indigenous voice, and certainly you weren't saying that, but that's another part of it. You know, one example that shows how difficult that is post-Katrina New Orleans. And a lot of people, including a lot of anarchists, including people I know, went down there to help. There was severe need. But at the same time, when does the perspective enter the picture, especially in that one, a city built below sea level, built at the cost of all the wetlands being destroyed so they can keep propping up that city, which is a very cool place, I'm sure. I haven't even ever been there, but you know what I mean? That's not the ultimate answer. It's not the ultimate answer. I mean, I'm very glad, and I certainly respect people who went down there for months to try to give a hand and be involved in those projects for people that lost everything. Of course, you know, but is that the thing to just keep on? At some point, that's failing. That isn't maybe ultimately in the best interest of the people there or anybody else. You know, in terms of what is the real possible road out of there.
Spreading information might be one of the best things to do that?
Yeah, and well, a lot of things, you know, a lot of things. There are people on the land that are trying to figure out, how do we feed each other? You know, I mean, how especially if you take seriously the non-domestication direction. And fortunately, there are a lot of people, I know very, very little about that, but there are many places with permaculture or Fukuoka's methods or indigenous edible landscapes, as some people call it. What did they used to eat here, and how can that be healed again, or how can we aid in that process, and instead of the monoculture, poisoning of the earth model and all that? I mean, that's the practical thing that has to be done. Otherwise, there's no place to go.
But do you think it would be possible to go back to the philosophy of what they call le siècle des Lumières, you know, like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, le contrat social, or Thomas Jefferson, you know, that kind of philosophy where knowledge or science was put in much before money or economy? Do you think it would be possible to go back to, it was at the end of the 18th century, you had Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Voltaire, Isaac Newton, Thomas Jefferson, Immanuel Kant, and these people. Do you think that it would be a middle way?
Well, there could, I mean, maybe that's what will happen. Who knows? I mean, that just depends on what is decided, if we get to decide. But it seems to me, again, as I didn't say perhaps very well, but if you don't short-circuit that process, you're only putting it off. It just keeps going at a slightly earlier stage, which wouldn't be so bad, but it wouldn't perhaps be the answer that establishes life on a non-domesticated, non-divided way. I mean that's talking about ideal futures or directions or goals. I mean, this would probably be a very difficult process of transition to get to anywhere, you know. But but maybe we have to have that vision in order to, you know, somehow get outside of all these things.
This is is along similar lines of the first commentary also, because I was also pretty appalled by the ending of that film, especially with the usage of a deep forest, which is probably one of the worst cases of cultural appropriation. And I don't know much about the ethics behind the video footage, but I wouldn't give them much thought. But my question is, what do you think is the role of this glorification of the noble savage in this movement? Do you think that there's some positive role there, or is this a problem within the movement of anarcho-primitivism?
Well, you know, that's a pejorative. I mean, that's the kind of laugh line, noble savage. We're way too hip for that. But of course it is. That's exactly the point. You know, you know, civilization has tried to just deride that, but you know, I mean, that's. I mean, a condition where there wasn't organized warfare, where women were not systematically objectified, where man society was egalitarian. That's orthodox anthropology. That isn't dreaming. It was until somewhat recently, but now that's what you get in basic 101 anthropology. That's not some anarchist cooking it up, or Rousseau or anybody else. You know, that's and not. I don't think. You know, I think it's sometimes there's the pull to idealize or romanticize, but you don't really have to do that. I mean, the record is pretty good in itself, not perfect. I mean, and so much we don't even know. We don't know very much about personal violence before civilization. We know there wasn't war, but you know, you can't even. You could make a rosy picture about some things that there's no evidence for if you want, but there's plenty of evidence for a very sound basis of life compared to this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that on that level, but is it really worth exploiting people who are being exploited so much is basically my question.
Well, yeah, no, that's a hard one. I mean, anybody with dreadlocks, any pop music is ripping off cultures to feed into the metropole, into modern societies like this one. I mean, I don't know exactly what you say about that. I mean, where do you draw the line? I mean, what do you not have that at all? Maybe not. I mean, I don't know, but it isn't just. I don't know. It's a problem that exists in a very widespread way, not how somebody makes a kind of a slick film real fast and throws it in. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you know what I mean. It's a pretty big problem, I guess.
I have two quick questions. The first one you can answer by yes or no. I don't mind. The first question is: do you think 911 was an inside job? And the second, well, I'm just curious by your opinion. And the second question, and then you can go.
No.
No. Okay.
I don't know, but that's...
Well, that's a defining point. I mean, it creates a separation on the left, because you have those 911 truth movements, and they're divided between Ron Paul and Kucinich, and they're still pretty, you know, they have something to do.
I mean, I guess it's possible. My main hit on that is there are people, I don't know what accounts for it, but there's so many sidesteps, endless conspiracy stuff.
Well, those people look at history, you know.
Well,
when you look at history, you get quite
you know, why not look at more basics? Why not look at the institutions rather than was there a plot to kill Kennedy or? I mean, there's a billion of them. I mean, in a sense, what does it matter? What changes? Whoever killed Kennedy, does it make any difference in your life or my life or the life of the planet?
I think it does, because we're fighting for public opinion, right? We're fighting.
But over what? You're fighting over nothing. I mean, who cares?
Well, it does matter.
Does it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
You're not in public office.
I'm sure you know way more about it. I'm just suggesting that that's kind of a big diversion. We could be thinking about more important things.
You're also fighting for public opinion right now, and you're spreading information. But okay, you answered my question. It's fine. My second question is it's a little maybe more. Do you see any alternative to money as an organizational system of society? And if you do, what would be the best?
Well, you know, that, I'm glad you brought that up because it leads on to, I don't know how many everybody's an anarchist, probably not, but, or the question, in other words, the question of, in terms of primitivism, just one quick reference.